take it away. Take it away, Clyde.
You've seen those two girls that do the transatlantic accent. The girl who puts the hat on. And she's like, oh, you think you're leaving here without me?
Oh.
We got another thing coming. Hi, hello, and welcome back to Empaths Anonymous. I'm Danny.
Cello, I'm Christina.
Turn it on its side. Cello, what have you got? That's a bass.
Huh?
Oh.
School of Rock.
Thank you.
Funny because in the bathroom I was singing a different Jack Black. I was like, Arthur is a doodly doo while I was peeing.
Oh, yes. I love me some Jack
What's his name,
Black.
right? Arthur, the old guy?
Yes, it's Arthur. In The Holiday? If
Yeah.
you know, you know. If you know, you know, J-Lo.
She don't know. That's the problem.
Rest in peace. The tour's dead. Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of a,
Numero
you guessed
dos.
it, 2-part conversation that we are having as it relates to multi-potentiality as well as the fear of being perceived. So if you are listening to part 2, having not listened to part 1, totally up to you, but it might make more sense if you go back and listen to part 1 from the previous
Go back and
week.
listen to
Go back and
it.
listen to it. It's good. It's great. It's fantastic.
I'm not somebody who advocates towards rules, but that's something I think that you should follow. That's one that I do subscribe to.
Follow my rules.
Follow my rules specifically.
So just to briefly recap, we did talk about the fear of being perceived, what it means, the judgment that comes along with it, and we ended on talking about how really certain things, whether they be in your childhood or otherwise, traumatic or not, can lead to self-doubt and therefore decision fatigue as you grow into your adolescence, young adulthood, and to infinity and beyond.
Right. And you're just are asking yourself, who am I? What should I be? What should I do?
What do you want to be when
What
you
do
grow
I want
up?
to be?
Yeah, the crippling question. So, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Ugh. What did you say? What was your answer usually? Or did you have multiple?
Well, teacher, believe it or not. But I was told that I was a really good arguer. So I was told a lot of the time that I should be a lawyer or just something to make me a lot of money. Work in the medical field, like work and be a doctor or a nurse or something that can make you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like when you grow up with parents who feel maybe financially insecure because they grew up in scarcity mindset,
Right.
then they instill, that's really, really common within millennials in general. It's like, follow your passions. Fuck that. Like,
That's the
Go.
generational scar we were passed down on. Is
Yes.
like, make a fuck ton of money.
make money and you'll be happy. You know, if you make money, there's no way you can be sad or depressed or any
Right.
of the other things that we don't know yet.
Because it worked for them. Fun fact. So if your parents or two people in a partnership were bringing in a dual income of $80,000 in 1995, that now equals $240,000.
It's today's
So
equivalent.
think of that. If your parent, I was talking to someone the other day who was like, my mom told me, I made $40,000 when I was your age and I was doing great. I had all this extra money. And she's like, well, yeah, mom, that was 30 years ago. So if
I
your
can't
parent was
stand-
making $40,000 30-ish years ago, that would equate to $120,000 now,
Yes.
which not a lot of us make that. If you do, congratulations.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's crazy. But
It is
anyway,
crazy.
so that did feed into it, is like, they were like, oh, it worked for me. I just went to college and then I made all this money. Or maybe I didn't even have to go to college. I just like, worked my way up. I was a secretary
company.
and then I was this and then I was that. And then all of a sudden I'm making all this money.
That used to be a very feasible thing. You didn't have to have a master's degree to be an entry-level administrative assistant. I'm pretty sure I can like send emails and schedule events without having like $200,000 of student loans, and you're only going to pay me $16 an hour
For real.
to get lunch for the office.
For
You see
real.
where the disconnect is happening? Different episode.
Completely.
We're
We'll
gonna-
have to have one on the education system. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, education system as well as wage gaps
Girl,
between
do not even.
genders and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm reeling it back in. Self-doubt leads to decision fatigue or not being able to make a decision in regard to your future or what you want to do to earn a living. Ultimately, what we've been learning, since it's a fairly new thing that hasn't really quite yet been researched by professionals, multi-potentiality, is that shame is the root cause of it. So there were a couple of TikTok videos we will link in the show notes, as always. One of them being Jake Creative Hackers, where he mentioned that shame is the root, and it is because you are fearful of the success that could come from finally honing in on something, learning it until you don't necessarily have to become an expert in it, but feel comfortable enough in it to do something or earn a living with whatever it is that you've learned, right?
Oh, totally. It's like, I don't want to always keep relating things back to the podcast, but and not even just that, many things in life. It's like, I didn't start them because, one, I'm a perfectionist and I have to have things be perfection from the jump.
Yes.
Danny has learned that from me of like, I will go over an episode 3 times until every single breath and gap is taken out. But I digress. It's that perfectionism of like, it has to be perfect the first time, otherwise I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the like, well, what if I am really good? What if it does go really well?
Yes.
And I find a lot of success in that because I don't have a roadmap for that.
Right.
What does that look like?
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen after that. What if I'm really good at it? If people really like it, then I have to be perceived.
Then I have to be perceived.
So you see, if you're not listening to the first episode, you got to go back to part 1.
And do you see why this all comes together? It's like, yes, these are 2 different topics, but they just really relate to each other so beautifully.
Right. And so he really goes into how more often than not, and it's very common, that multi-potentialites are just crippled by fear, but are in actuality very, very talented people. And you just have a hard time honing in on that talent, or you have so many things you could potentially be good at.
Yeah.
It's like the decision fatigue. You can't choose one because it's too difficult for you to choose a niche. Or when someone asks you, like, I personally hate the question, what are your hobbies? What are you passionate about? Like, what do you just love to do? And I'm like, I am chilling. I like to do so many different things. I can't.
Right. I'm like, how much time do you have?
Yeah, I've like never been the person to just be like, you know what I really love? Soccer. I love soccer so much.
Yeah.
Like, I just live and breathe and eat soccer.
Right.
You know, I can't. It's never been, and not like that with anything. Not a sport, not a creative hobby, not something silly like collecting seashells. You know what I mean? Like, I just.
Yeah. Collecting seashells.
Yeah. Like, not even with a collection. Like, I just never found my passion. I'm like, maybe my passion is more intrinsic. Like, I really love helping others, but that people don't like that answer.
No.
Like, oh, okay, it's like, well, you're like the perfect person or whatever.
Right. Well,
I'm
then
like, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. But or don't ask me the question.
Right. And then stack on the societal expectation.
Yeah.
Because society also tells you pick one thing.
Yeah.
And be really good at it. And like,
really
go to
good.
the Olympics.
Yeah.
Or go to the big leagues. You know, graduate top of your class.
Yeah.
And whatever it is. You can also even add the cultural expectations to that of like, okay, I'm half black.
Mm-hmm.
And so people were like, you should play volleyball. You should play basketball. I'm like, ma'am, I'm 5'0".
Zero. Yeah.
And I did play basketball and I hated it and I wasn't good at it.
Right.
I loved volleyball, wasn't good at it. I was really good at soccer, but it's like I almost didn't have decision fatigue. I was like, I am going to do everything. I'm going to be a theater kid. I'm going to play sports. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write and I'm going to do this. I couldn't pick. So it's I almost, not that I limited myself.
But then you got labeled as like a quitter.
Yeah.
That was me a lot.
Yeah.
That was me a lot. It was like,
you
don't stick to anything. You just go from one thing to another. I'm like, why was that not okay? Like, I'm really just figuring it out.
Right. It's like I played piano and then
I wanted piano, but I had little fingers.
Yeah. And then Freaky Friday came out and I was like, Mom, I want to play the electric fucking guitar. And she's like, no,
Lindsay
I'm
Lohan.
not buying you another instrument. You're playing the piano. I'm like, but I don't want to play the piano. You made me play the piano. I like music, but I want to play the guitar.
Yeah. I'm trying to rock out.
Yeah.
What's the song?
Rock out with your cock out?
The one she sings.
You're it.
You're the ultimate, yo. You're the ultimate, yo.
With the microphone stand, I know. Or the one, don't want to grow up, I want to get out.
Hey!
Take me away. Ugh, so good. I need to watch that one again.
Who had a brief stint on the Nickelodeons.
Who?
Taina. Or was that actually Disney? The girl, the curly-haired brown girl.
That's her. I was just going to say, I had a crush on her. I had a girl crush on her. She's so cute. And the colors, she had like blue and red streaks in her hair. I loved it. That's Taina?
Yeah, dude.
See, I didn't. So one of my old coworker besties was obsessed with it.
Okay.
She's Puerto Rican. Hello,
Puerto Rican.
feeling Puerto Rican. But she would always talk about it. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Girl,
I've
it
never
was
heard of that
so
show.
good. It was so good. It was only like one season. Racism.
Racism.
Same with Deep Cut. Brothers Garcia.
I did know that one, and I liked
And
that one.
all those boys, I'm like, I am in love. I'm 11 and in love.
Literally.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, these beautiful boys exist.
Yeah.
I grew up in a white town, y'all. It's
Right.
getting better, but
Not brown boys, but I was obsessed. My Nickelodeon show, me and Kyle, Naked Brothers Band, obsessed.
to this day, love those white boys.
You sent me a TikTok of he's in Billy's music video. He is the white boy that I cannot tell you why I love him so much, but I do.
We don't need an explanation. It's Nat, right?
Nat.
The older one.
Specifically Nat.
Yeah.
Alex is like
he's
fine, but like Nat is our age. So
Yeah.
it's like I always loved
Yeah.
Nat the most.
And Nat is looking thick.
And
one thing I love is a chubby bunny.
who's looking thick?
Nat.
Oh, for real. I need to look up his sign. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It is what it is.
Okay, do I have a guess? He seems watery.
Cancer baby. A little cancer boy.
Oh, shit. Nope.
Not even a Scorpio?
Nope.
Oh, no.
Close. He shares the same birthday week as me, December 17th.
You're lying.
I don't like, Astro theme, get your shit together. Hate you. Hate. Astro charts, love. He's born in 1994, December 17th, 1984. He's a,
I thought he was our age. That's
oh shit, he is not watery. He is a Sagittarius sun, Gemini moon. They don't know his risings. They don't know his birth time. Sag Mercury, Sag Jupiter. Yeah, he's a lot of fire.
Isn't Billy also Sag?
Yes, she is.
Okay. I mean, if we're going to take over the world, it might as well be soon. Stuff's got to get done around here.
Here's the thing is I think that Sagittarius, we also are often labeled
Sagittarians?
quitters because we have a lot of hobbies and interests, and we also start things and don't finish because we get frustrated and we're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
But
This is
I
wasting
think
my
that
time.
I think that a lot of Sagittarians are multi-potentialites because a lot of Sagittarians are curious and knowledgeable and passionate
Little bit passionate a bit.
and passionate about multiple things.
That's true.
What were we talking about before I was blinded by my adolescent love for Nat Wolff?
Very talented without a niche or a passion.
Yeah, and just I'm even looking at it like from a cultural standpoint of like there's a lot of stereotypes, right? So it's like Asians are good at math or they're just really smart in general.
Right. Yeah. You should be a scholar. Like you should tutor. You should teach.
Right.
You should be an engineer.
Right.
Things like that. Okay, well, I know that a lot of my counterparts do this. It's actually what Hassan jokes about a lot because Indian people are not supposed to be stand-up comedians. They're supposed to be civil engineers.
Doctors or working in
doctors.
Silicon Valley and all of that.
Why haven't you created an app yet, Hassan?
Yeah.
Things like that. So that's why we just love the show so much because it was entirely about every single thing that we want to touch on or have touched on before.
Go listen to the Hassan episode if you haven't.
Please.
It's honestly one of my favorite ones that we've done.
It's great. It's good. It's
Amen.
like we couldn't have planned it better. It's almost like, did he read our bio or did we read his material? I don't know.
Or did he read our minds? Are you a fan of the podcast, Hassan? Are you just listening under an alias? Because you can slide in the DMs.
Are
in
you
a
that
very
one
respectful
listener
way.
in Australia?
For real. Okay.
Did you get a
I
VPN?
really want, whoever's listening to us in Australia, can you please either in our
I know
ratings-
who it is. I know who it is.
Who is it?
I told you. It's Danny.
Oh, hi, Danny. Remember that one time I bullied you on accident? Love ya. Mean it.
At the time, had we known you were a Taurus, we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I love you. I bully people that I love.
long-standing friendship with someone across many ponds.
Bond.
Many, many ponds. 18 hours away. And we just live for it. And I wish him a happy birthday every year. And that's the extent of our conversation.
Yeah.
Very talented people struggle very much with what to do with that talent. I personally, let's go down the list. Ice skating. Okay. I was afraid I was going to fall and crack my head open. I was a very logical child. Why would I want to go ice skating? Why would I want to do that? I was 5.
Okay.
That's crippling fear. I wasn't afraid that I was going to fall down on my butt. I was afraid that I was going to slip, crack my head open, blood everywhere. It was a free lesson anyway. And UTC, I don't know if you're still as expensive as you were, but those lessons were expensive as fuck. So my parents were not doing that.
Yeah.
It was a gift. What else did I do? I did softball for a little while. Couldn't hit the ball. Hated it. Threw me in the outfield. I didn't care. Did I want to catch a ball? Nope. I did dance. I pretended to do soccer in junior high. I did cross country.
Pretended?
Yeah, dude. I just stood on the sidelines, and the coach was like, "Do you want to go in?" I'm like, "No, I'm just here for my friend.
I'm just here for the Gatorade at the end of this."
Who's bringing the snacks this week?
For real.
Which one has the snacks? You know what I really liked? I like being a spectator. Still to this day. Like when Adrian was in, my brother Adrian, shouts out, when he was in Little League, that was my shit.
Oh,
I was like supportive big sister. That was my role.
Okay.
I was
even
talented
when he was
at that.
in band. I even went to one of his band
That's
competitions.
right. Okay, drumline is a different, like, if y'all are familiar with the drumline circuit, that shit gets crazy.
It's intense.
Mad
I wasn't
competitive.
aware.
It's really, that bitch is like a part-time job. Getting prepared for those competitions, the timing of it all, I just could never. So yeah, I really stepped into that. Whatever he wants to do, let's just go to that. Are they selling shirts? I'll wear one.
Right?
That was my niche. If there's one thing I could be good at, it's supporting somebody else.
Right?
That's me. Okay?
Yeah.
That's my talent. One of the last things he says, Jake Creative Hackers, he says to stack your passions.
And what does that mean? Can you break that down?
So I think that once you realize that you become passionate about something, or it's not even that, because it's hard for us to define what that is, right? It's hard for us to define a passion like I talked about.
Right.
So let's reword it. Let's reframe. Something that I've started to become really interested in. Like I'm spending a lot of time on it. And as we know, we value time very much. Time is money.
Right.
So if I'm spending time on something, maybe that should be something like an indicator in my brain where I'm like, oh, I'm spending a lot of time on this. Do I
like this?
Do I like this?
Is this a passion?
Do I care about this like a little bit more than something else?
Right.
So it's like I am really involved in learning ceramics. And the teacher, she's really cute. She's like, are you sure you've never done this before? You're like really good at it. And for us, ding, ding, ding.
Newsflash, Mussolini. I'm good at everything.
For us, we're like, well, yeah. But like, how do I make a vase?
Right.
It's like my first time ever.
I want to make an entire set.
I'm like, well,
of dishes.
Listen, I know I made 2 bowls, but like, I really wanted to walk out of here with like 4 plates. I've got 4 people in my home. So like 2 bowls just doesn't make enough sense to me. And the bowls were really beautiful. And they are catch-all bowls. And I actually really like how they turned out. And at the time I was like, oh, they're uneven. You know, it's just a whole thing. But I think just those things, right? Trying new things and realizing that if I'm spending more time on it, or if I want to spend more time on it, then that's okay. That's one thing. Okay. And I started my stack with that. Yeah. Like, oops, something piqued my interest. I'm going to keep it right here in my stack. Okay. And it's like, I'm not going to quit it. I'm just going to keep it in my stack. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing. Maybe that's kind of,
I think that's my question is like, does stacking mean building on the other thing? Ooh, that's what I associate stack with in my brain of like, okay, I'm going to do ceramics and then I'm going to add this layer to it. And then I'm going to add this layer to it. That's not what he's saying.
I think he just meant it as like a overall theme.
Right.
So he didn't really dive deep into stacking your passions. But maybe that's something that if and when we find a coach or someone who's well-versed in multi-potentialites or has a little bit more information on it, maybe we can get them to kind of unpack what that means. And maybe it just means something different. So maybe for you, it could be that. Christina really likes editing videos.
I really do.
So
it really gets me going.
So she has realized that I like something that I wasn't sure that I was going to like. And maybe that can go into something else. So for you, maybe it is a stack that leads to something else. So the initial foundational piece is I like editing videos, period. The next piece can be, I like editing videos. Can I do this for other people or do I just like doing it for myself?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to try doing it for other people. Okay, I really like doing it for other people. I'm going to monetize this. And that becomes one of my passions.
Right.
It becomes one of the things that I choose as a niche.
Piggybacking off of that, I don't want to confuse this with this idea that any hobby or interest that you have has to make you money.
No, not at all.
I disagree. Do I think that if you find something that you really, really love,
amazing,
and you want to make it your life's work, say you're a creator or an artist, a writer, something like that, Yes, absolutely. But I don't think that every single thing in my life that I like needs to make me money. And I think that society told me and others told me, you're wasting your time, which we value and is precious. You're wasting your time if the things that you're spending doing is not making you money.
Yeah. And for me, that's a trauma response specifically. I'm having to unlearn that because I heard that a lot growing up and within other relationships. So it's like, if you're not spending your time wisely, which to a lot of people, spending time wisely means
making money,
earning income, which I get it, survival, understood. But then that's really towing the line of like, how is it a hobby anymore? Right. It's just, when does it work?
I love making Pinterest boards. And then somebody was like, well, you can get paid for doing that. You should do the creator fund. You should do this. You should do that. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I like turning on Lana Del Rey and laying in my bed and making mood boards. I don't want to make money doing it. I don't want to be a photographer and have to take all these content pictures and put them on Pinterest. No.
Yeah.
I like
just an extra layer to what I've already got going on.
It's soothing for me. It's mindless, but it's still creative to where I feel like I'm doing something. Yeah. I don't want to make money off of that. There's certain things like the editing thing. Yes, I would enjoy doing that. I also love animals. That's my side gig. Is I like to dog sit or take dogs on walks, or I really want to volunteer at a shelter maybe like once a week or once a month. That, yes, I can make money off of that because it's not pressure.
Right. It's like something I'm already kind of doing. It's really easy.
People are willing and know that they have to pay you to stay in their house and watch their dog while they're on vacation.
Care for their fur children. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, definitely don't confuse things that you love doing with them always having to make you money. It was just a specific example of like what someone's stack could look like. But if you wanted to flip it on its head and you were like, oh, the foundation of my stack is I really like editing videos, then maybe I will get more into editing personal videos for myself, and maybe I'll do video journals.
Yeah.
And doing something that is really good for my self-care and my mental health, and I can still practice what I like doing. And I'm learning along the way because it's like I'm practicing it with the podcast content, and I'm also practicing it in my personal life as well. Right. So things that you like, that you started to figure out that you like learning.
Kind of along the lines of like habit stacking. Or like skill stacking. Like I can recognize and look back on all of my past jobs and all the skills that I've learned. It kind of led me to this. I learned how to talk on a microphone from, being a journalism major and from having a job in radio. And I learned how to market myself because I had a job in PR, and I'm just used to reaching out to people, and I don't really have a fear of like people turning me down. I learned how to be on camera because I had to basically be like an influencer kind of for this radio station that I worked with. All these little skills that I thought were insignificant at the time led me to this. And it's like, oh, and now I know how to do all of these things for my podcast because I learned them all. Right. They all were for a purpose. Nothing's wasted. And now I'm creating this finished product based on all these skills that I can bring to the table.
Exactly. A lot of the organizational skills and the interpersonal skills that I learned just with working corporate jobs, and a lot within hospitality, is just learning how to level with people and speak to people. And that is a learned skill. And I know that because I lost it or never really gained a good perspective on it or practice it in my professional career because I was working with kids for like 3 or 4 years straight. So one of my criticisms, one of my evaluations when I was working with kids, specifically at the YMCA many, many years ago, one of the things that they spoke to me about at my evaluation was, oh, you're so amazing with the kids, but we've noticed that you kind of shut down or don't really know how to interact with the parents. And I didn't even realize that I was doing that. Or I guess not doing that, because if I'm not interacting, then I'm not talking to anybody. Just not even realizing that I was doing that. And so I think learning those skills and bringing them to whatever it is that you're doing, I think that's why we talk so much about the fear is don't let anyone, especially yourself, talk you out of something because you're not sure if your skill set will match up to it. Because no matter what you've learned in life, if you're starting something new, it's 100% going to have a learning curve because you've never tried it before. That is the scariest part of it, is just starting. And that is why it's this endless, I'll never start anything. Another TikTok that was a TED Talk, actually, Emily Wapnick, she said it's surrounding this idea of destiny. What is my destiny? What am I meant to do? Like my purpose in life. And it's supposed to be just this one clear answer.
There's layers to that, especially when you grew up in the church, because it's like, well, what is God's plan for you? And then you're like, it's gonna fall from the sky and I'm just gonna know one day exactly what I'm meant to do. Like, no,
talk
you
about
have
like
to
crippling
try
fear.
Talk about crippling fear and being frozen.
Like afraid to make any choice because it could be the wrong one. You could be wrong.
You could be wrong. There's been so many business ideas I've had and so many projects I wanted to start, and people in my life would be like, just do it. Just do it. You just need to start. And I'm like, no, but you don't understand. I have to have an entire business plan and all of the branding and all of the visuals and a case study and a proven method and a beautiful website and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll start it. And it's like, well, then you never do it.
Never. That's what Coach Annie Petch says, because she says that we're masters of learning. So when you're trying to create something, you're going to learn every single thing about the thing you're doing before it becomes tangible to anybody else.
Right.
Out of fear of being embarrassed, fear of being judged.
Yes.
Because she says we end up choosing nothing. Because we can't narrow it down. Or we choose nothing because I tried this and it was an A+ project.
Right. And that goes back to the fear of perception.
Yeah. And I've got it all the way together all the time, which is really just a lie.
Really? Yeah.
To yourself.
And it's again, and we're going through a lot of the themes.
Yes.
Again, another theme and purpose of this podcast is to show that, listen, not everyone has it together. People who claim to or look like they do on social media are lying. Even inadvertently. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to have it all together to start something that you love or that you're passionate about.
Start small and don't be afraid of not liking it, because it could just be like, I tried it, I didn't like it.
Yeah, like I said last week, I think. When you're listening to this, it'll be probably the 2 episodes ago. Sometimes quitting isn't bad. I have to challenge myself because I make it so acceptable to quit things that I need to stick with things.
Yeah.
Especially things that are important, like this. Talk about another fear as we put this out into the world. We're like, oh shit, we have to do this like every week, huh? Yeah, we do, huh?
Yeah, last week when we did the bonus episode for Love Island, which if you guys haven't listened, it's so good. Even if you're not into Love Island, y'all, we're always going to relate it back to human behavior and why people are acting the way they do. Like, this just, it's fascinating. It's good insight. And if you don't care for Love Island, that's totally fine. But it's good chats. I was saying last week, I asked you, I'm like, okay, so we're doing like this next Friday? And she was like, no.
I'm like, girl, it's a bonus episode.
I wasn't sure how many bonus episodes
I'm thinking maybe like the premiere and the finale or something like that. Sure. Or if something very significant happens, we like have a recap on it or something like that.
Or if US starts getting really good. If US starts getting really good, we might have to throw an episode in there.
I think it's going to be good, you guys.
And it's Ariana. And I have watched Vanderpump Rules since like season 2 or 3. Like, I'm in it.
She has. She's tried to get me into it. And I'm like, it's just so many.
It's too many seasons. I wouldn't do it
to commit to. So there's also this term called a polymath. And polymath means many, learning. So it's somebody who likes to learn multiple different things. And so as I was deep diving, getting ready for this episode, a lot of the time it stems from imposter syndrome. And it comes from being in an unstable or dysfunctional dynamic at home in childhood, because it's a control thing.
Right.
So much like how they say that, trigger warning, eating disorders or OCD, things like that are stemmed from a lack of control. So you feel like this is the one thing I can control. So I'm going to, even though it's hurting me, I'm going to continue doing it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's like, I'm going to basically like store all these things like a little squirrel. I'm going to gather all these nuts of information and knowledge that I can, because it's control. It's like, I have the control over how much I can learn.
Right.
And over how smart I can be.
Right. I always call myself a forever student. And it's probably why I found myself in a lot of environments that are educational.
Yeah.
Because it's from the very beginning, really. I don't think I've worked very many retail. I've worked some like food service jobs, but for the most part, I've really been involved in childhood development. I mean, young children from ages kindergarten to 5th grade and now junior high. So I'm like working my way up through the age group, but it definitely has had an effect on just me always wanting to know a lot about a lot. Is that like a defense mechanism? Do I feel this need to prove myself and my intelligence because I didn't have any other passions? But like I could say I'm really smart. I've actually never really said like, oh, I'm like actually really intelligent, really super smart. Yeah. It's like saying like I'm really humble. But I always have called myself a lifelong learner because I don't mind learning. The idea of school as an institution is a whole separate conversation. But learning itself, I'm always looking for new information. I would be really curious to try to understand that for myself personally, like what that means and why. Why am I the way that I am?
And even from a community perspective, if there's somebody in your life who's a know-it-all, it's probably for a reason. Specifically,
oh my God,
for myself, thinking of somebody in my family, they were always criticized for being a know-it-all. And then I'm researching this and like knowing what I know, I'm like, oh, this person had to be a know-it-all because they had absolutely zero autonomy with their body and in their home.
Wow.
And this person is one of the smartest people I know. And they are somebody who knows something about literally everything.
Yeah.
I could text this person right now and be like, hey.
Like a walking Google.
Right. How tall is the Tower of London? And they'd be like, oh, it's 600 and blah, 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 blah. You know? And it's also a, what's the word? Not coping mechanism.
A defense mechanism.
Defense mechanism. Yeah. Yes, because it was like their way of protecting themselves. I don't feel safe with my parents, or it's their defense mechanism for being bullied or put down in their own home.
It ends up being true because that typically backfires when you don't nurture your child's desire or yearn for constant knowledge all the time.
Yeah.
It's like the kid who always asks why, and they're just like shut down.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we have to nurture that. You have to nurture that because then they're going to start feeling insecure about those things because that is just innately who they are as a person. And you begin to shut those things down and then you're creating that doubt in somebody else.
It stems from the parents' insecurity because it's like we should always look at the next generation as we want them to surpass the places that we were able to go, right? But when that threatens you and when you feel like you need to steal the joy or prove wrong a child, that's when you need to start looking at yourself and like, why does this threaten me and trigger me so much?
Why do I feel like I'm in competition with not only a child, my child that I chose to bring into this world? For me, that would feel like such an uncomfortable feeling if all of a sudden something switched or...
Right. Imagine,
or
because you
birth.
Have a very smart child. Imagine how that would be.
If I was in competition with my 3-year-old.
It's just... unneeded, and it's a chance to really look inward and where did that stem from me in my trauma and my childhood now I'm passing that down to my own kid who's now going to have their own trauma and experiences because of how I'm treating them
because I can't figure out why I'm thinking or feeling that way,
or I have literally no cognition that I'm acting that way.
I got that a lot too as a kid, that I was a know-it-all. Well, you just know everything, don't you? Well, kind of. I mean, don't you send me to school for a reason?
So the idea of a polymath in the school of thought, there's always this argue, right, about is it nature or nurture? This is one of those situations where scholars can agree that it's both.
Yeah.
It is nature and it is nurture being a polymath because, like you said, it could be a trauma response and a defense mechanism, and it could also be nurtured. Maybe they had a teacher at school that really nurtured that in them. Yeah. They have this nature to seek knowledge, but then they also were told by somebody, hopefully, in their life that this is okay and I'm going to encourage it.
Right. And I also have like resources for students like you, and you're not alone. I actually have quite a few students like you, and there's programs for gifted students like you who do want to explore more about life, and you're just like a naturally curious person. So I will nurture how naturally curious you are.
And kids are so resilient and so intuitive that a lot of the time your environment can impact your need for learning, either in a negative way or a positive way. So we want to leave you with some takeaways because obviously we can talk about these important topics all we like. it doesn't mean shit if we aren't able to really give tangible ways of how we all, us included, can incorporate it into our lives as deep feelers or empaths, or somebody supporting an empath or a highly sensitive person, whether it's in a relationship or you're a parent or whatever it may be. Let us know, honestly. I would love to hear the different ways that you are supporting people. But first is recognizing how it's affecting yourself. So it can be a point of distortion if you are using negative self-talk and you get in this feedback loop from hell. That's what I call it. It's the feedback loop from hell because of this fear of perception and perfectionism and decision fatigue. You get in this feedback loop. And then because you're not making any decisions and you're not taking any action, you're then talking mean to yourself instead of giving yourself love of like, wow, like I can appreciate that I have tried so many things and I'm still on the journey of evolving and finding the thing that's right for me.
Yeah. And you never know when in your life you can revisit something that you started 10 years ago, girl.
Absolutely.
Girls and gays and theys. Because it's not ever, you're not ever doing yourself a disservice to learn something new. You're just growing and evolving. And if you did something grand with that, amazing. Or if you found something that you really like with something that you learned, incredible. There were so many things that I learned about that I thought were going to take me to A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and they just didn't. And that's perfectly okay. But it does take you a long time to be okay with that and acknowledge that. And it's not once you learn it like, oh, like I will never talk bad to myself ever again. It's like a daily choice, even within very specific instances, catching it while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And try to just reframe it. Yep.
Like any other self-care practice or a yoga practice or what have you, it's a practice, like meditation. You don't just say, I'm going to meditate today. And then all of a sudden you're like, yes, I meditated perfectly for 20 minutes. I didn't think about anything. I was present. I was in the zone. No, you're not going to, you have to practice. People take years.
I've never met anyone who meditated more perfectly than me.
People take years.
Yeah.
To master it. And they'll even still tell you that I have good days and I have bad days.
Right.
Because we're working with a brain where we are taught that our brain controls us, but in reality, our brain is just another part of our body.
Isn't it true that, somebody fact check me. We know more about the ocean than the human brain?
Really?
I think so.
But there's so much about the ocean that's undiscovered and unexplored. That's crazy.
Or is it the other way around? I'll have to look it up. We know more about the brain than we do the ocean. No,
that would make sense.
But I feel like it's the other way. Yeah, I do believe that it is a practice, and taking those things into consideration every single time you realize yourself doing it is just not necessarily try to stop the thought, maybe finish the thought, then think differently about it and ask yourself, how can I reframe that? So instead of putting myself down, I'm lifting myself up. So like what you mentioned earlier, I didn't finish this, or look, another project started that I'm not ever going to complete.
Right.
Which is like imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't deserve to have anything good happen to me, or I don't deserve recognition for anything because I don't ever finish anything, or I don't have stick-to-itiveness. It's all about reframing those thoughts and the things that you say to yourself so that you can grow and be better for the next time and in the next thing that you try. Because being a multi-potentialite, as we've learned, is a struggle, but as soon as you know that it's pretty normal, that if you identify that way, that it's really difficult to stick to one thing or pick one passion or choose an identity, then you have the tools and resources available to you to say, hey, like that's actually okay. And I can figure out what fields need people like that. Or what careers or what services can I provide? Because I'm a multifaceted person.
And as you said, tools. What's the solution when you get in this feedback loop, when you're feeling the imposter syndrome and talking negatively to yourself, or you're having this like, I put myself out there and now I have the Perceivey Geebies and I'm in a fucking spiral and I feel...
I'm going to delete it. I'm going to take it down. Deleting it.
Yes. Stop. And ask yourself for the next time. It may not be for the time that you're currently freaking out about, and that's okay.
Fair enough.
Decide what you would like to share and what you feel safe sharing. So let's say you are going to start a TikTok where you're making content about your home or living a soft girl life, but maybe you don't feel comfortable being in the camera yet, or you don't feel comfortable delving so closely into your everyday or maybe your like emotional state. What do you feel comfortable sharing? Okay, I'm going to share some home decor and I'm going to take it a little deeper. Next time I'm going to say, hey, when I'm feeling overstimulated, this is how I like to set the mood in my room so that I can relax and have a good night. Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Find your boundary.
Yeah.
And
choose your
say,
level of vulnerability, I guess.
Yes, choose your vulnerability fighter. I feel comfortable sharing to this amount. And then also identify what puts me in that spiral. What do I not feel safe sharing? And what are some things that I can hold to my chest a little bit and can be just for me in my personal life? A lot of creators don't like to right out the gate share their relationship. And I get why. Because it can easily become something that becomes idolized, or you open yourself up to criticism or whatever it may be.
Why are you with that person? That person doesn't love you. This person is a loser, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, man, you've seen like maybe 5 minutes of our whole existence together. And you have a whole opinion on this person and my relationship. And you don't even know me.
Or say you're still on your mental health journey and you're like, I'm just not going to talk about the things that I'm speaking about with my therapist.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever it may be, define what that is for you so that you don't get into that feedback loop where you're freaking out. Mm-hmm. Setting yourself a boundary.
Yeah.
Setting a boundary for yourself so that you can feel safe. And then, love Brene Brown. She always says, share from your scar, not from your wound. How I interpret that is we all have scars for things, but there's sometimes a wound is so fresh.
Okay.
And so if I get on a stage or a platform of any kind and I start talking about something where the wound is a little too fresh, it's going to feel way too vulnerable because I'm still going through it.
Right.
I'm not saying don't share anything about it, but maybe give it some time. Get to a place where you don't feel so overwhelmed or so overcome with emotion. When I first started going to therapy, my therapist was like, it's not bad, but you just cry a lot. I had to learn that I had to get through those certain topics that made me cry so much. And now I can talk about them and I don't get as emotional. Eventually, your wound is going to turn into a scar.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that scar. I can talk about that.
Because it was healed.
Because it's healed.
Open wound is a sore. It's like highly visible. It's painful. You're still addressing it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm still working on this because I can't show you right now. It's like fresh. There's definitely things that you have to decide. It's not always that you're putting yourself out there. It's what you're putting out there. That's really what it boils down to if you're sharing from your scar and not your wound. What is it that you're sharing that puts you in that frame of mind where you're like, ooh, deep-seated fear has set in. Danger zone.
You in danger, girl.
You in danger, girl. Didn't she pass away? Rest in peace.
Who?
The girl who said that. Is that from Bring It On?
Yes. She passed away.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah. When you're in the danger zone, figure out, was it something that I just put out into the world? Am I scared of just being out in the world? Am I scared of just being seen or being heard or whatever it is? Or is it a very specific thing that I shared that I'm afraid will be either heard by the wrong person or taken the wrong way or et cetera, et cetera? Yeah. Right? Decide what it is.
The second takeaway we have for you is thinking about if you don't show up as your authentic self and you don't do the things that you've identified, maybe it's your purpose or maybe it's something that you're passionate about, something you've identified that you feel like I am meant to do this in this lifetime. Ask yourself, what would happen if I don't do it? Specifically, and I don't want to say you're doing these things for others because that goes against the entire point of this podcast is that being an empath, you always are doing things for others.
Yes.
So you have to learn to reel it in. I'm just saying the ripple effect that you can cause by being an expander to somebody else. What would happen if you don't show up as your authentic self because you're too scared? So then all these other people, ripple effect, they're not going to be affected in the way that they were supposed to be. Because I think that we always think, what's going to happen if I do it? Right? That fear of success.
Yeah.
Why don't we ask ourselves more, what's going to happen if I don't do it?
Think about how many people could be impacted by some of the things that we have to share the same way that us two, are impacted by things that other people have shared.
Yes.
Like I talk about them a lot. I don't know if I've ever talked about them on the podcast, but one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, they're like my favorite aunties ever, is Getting Grown. And I never thought in my life that I would relate to, I think they're in their later 30s, but I would have to make sure of that, who live on the East Coast and have probably lived an extremely different life from mine, but what they speak about and what they talk about is adulthood and how ghetto it is, and just navigating through that and navigating through life as a Black woman, which obviously I am not, but I am a person of color, and I understand a lot of the things that they touch on. And imagine if they never started getting grown. I would be sad.
Right.
You know, I would be sad. Is that
something that made you fall in love with podcasting?
I mean, yeah, in a way.
So in a way, would you have been confident starting a podcast if you hadn't had these expanders before you who you look to and look up to?
The examples. Exactly. Same with like Café con Pam, some of the other like Latinx podcasts that we talked about earlier, or in the first part, actually, we talked about a few, and continuously finding either older ones that have maybe gone on hiatus or newer ones that are showing up. We're not always talking about people who started off with a platform, but we're talking about what is it that sparked deeper conversations like the ones we were having off camera before Empaths Anonymous, which led us to this couch. What would happen if we didn't do it?
And the opposite,
good question. Such a good question.
The opposite of it is, this is something too that Brene Brown talks about, which Brene Brown is one of my expanders. It was her listening to her TED Talks and reading her books were pivotal moments in my own growth journey. And so she's someone that I still look to, and I'm like, if I could even have an ounce of the knowledge and compassion and
her confidence. She's like so quietly confident.
Yes. But she even will say to this day, she still has a lot of fear around being vulnerable, and she still is an introvert. So she has to really take care of herself because now, I mean, most people in the world know who Brene Brown is.
Yeah. That's really intimidating.
Right. Anyway, she talks about how the opposite of showing up as your authentic self and doing the things that you want to do or need to do in this lifetime, the opposite of that is self-abandonment. So you will never know who you are meant to be an expander for in this life. So live your truth so you can inspire others to do the same, even if it's not in the same realm. Like, I'm not saying that just because I'm doing a podcast that I want to inspire you to do a podcast. Right. I'm wanting to inspire you to do whatever you want to do that you thought you couldn't because you're just a regular person.
Yes.
That could be anything.
Just regular people doing extraordinary things, or regular people doing excellent things,
or even regular people doing ordinary
things.
If you want to bake cakes, go bake cakes.
I love a good. If you want to
build Legos,
video.
Go build Legos. Like, it doesn't have to. It can be ordinary things. It doesn't have to be extraordinary.
Yeah. Are you talking about that Black girl who went viral for showing all of her Legos?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys, because people are stereotyped into these categories, and with specific cultures, like Black people aren't supposed to enjoy things that, quote unquote, air quotes here, okay,
right,
that white people enjoy. That's so tired. That's so limiting. Same for Latinx people. Latinas always get this like, oh, you're supposed to be doing this and you're not supposed to be doing that, or don't be weird, or don't like EDM, or don't like anime. Like, you can't like anime.
I always got criticized.
Like whatever you want, dude.
I got criticized in like middle school, high school, because I loved, like, I had a huge emo phase. I loved alternative rock and emo and punk rock, and I wasn't supposed to like that because I'm half Black.
Right.
And that was always an insecurity of mine. I felt like I had to hide it.
Right.
I mean, I do like rap generally. I wouldn't necessarily go pay to go see, like, I don't know, why did Travis Scott come to mind? Because you
definitely wouldn't.
I definitely wouldn't go see.
You might
die. Like Lil Uzi Vert. Do I like him? Yes. Would I pay money to go see his show? No. I like rap casually, unless it's like Tyler the Creator, Childish Gambino.
Yeah, there's specific artists, but that's like in every genre, and that's okay. That's what's okay about it. Is that like the same way that I would pay to see certain artists in this genre is the same way that I would do it for the other genre, but it's not okay.
Right.
In the culture's eyes. And not everybody, but old school ways of thinking, like archaic ways of thinking, where it's even like you're not allowed to like that.
Even with Spanish music, like, am I not allowed to like Spanish music because I'm not Hispanic? No, I can enjoy it.
Silly. No, that's very silly for someone to have.
And same with people who love K-pop.
Why wouldn't you love K-pop?
Music is art, and it's an emotion. People are always like, well, how do you like it? Because you don't even know what he's talking about. Like, I don't have to. I can feel what he's talking about. Dipshit.
If you're dumb, just say that.
And that's on being an empath. I don't need to know the lyrics. I just feel them.
Put that on a sticker as well.
going back to the self-abandonment thing, being empaths, we often are martyrs because we're putting our community or our family or whoever it is over ourselves. So something that Glennon Doyle talks about that I love is that how can I show up and instead of being the martyr, I can be the mother or the nurturer or the healer or the leader. How do I be that? It's like the alchemy point, right? Like I was the martyr, but now I'm going to be the leader. Or now I'm going to be the nurturer for my community because I alchemized and I saw that this way of putting myself last was detrimental. But if I can give space and love to myself and others, I can be a leader. And that's way more powerful than just being a martyr.
Yeah. I have this very specific memory of Coco being not even 2 yet, and there was something that I was trying with her because she was afraid of something, a sound or whatever, and I had a friend over and I tried to like slowly expose the sound to Coco to show her that like it's okay that she was scared of it, but that she could still confront the fear. And I was just validating her feelings and we still worked on it. And then toward the end of whatever it is that we were doing, she was able to listen to the sound without covering her ears. And so the friend that was over told me, you really need to like start sharing all of these things that you do as a parent because I don't see anybody else doing what you do. And I'm like, what? To me, it was just like, what do you mean? I'm not going to say that stuff came natural to me. A lot of it did. And I do have a background in childhood development, so I know that helped me out a lot, but I wasn't necessarily, and still to this day, not necessarily aware of how impactful my parenting can be to somebody else who maybe doesn't have that background or came into single motherhood recently and doesn't know what they're doing. And so that kind of always stuck with me because that can be relatable to so many things, right? You're a person who thinks that they're just like, oh, I'm just a regular person, like going about my life, not realizing the potential that you have in something and that you could be sharing it with people instead of that self-abandonment. Well, I'm not really doing anything that special. I'm just here. Yeah. You know, I'm not as good of a mother as I should be. Good mothers worry about being good mothers. Bad mothers don't. Okay. Just gonna throw that out there.
Bars. Period. And then the last takeaway that I have, I don't know if you have any, but the last takeaway that I have is that undoing your conditioning, whatever it may be. So if you are a multi-potentialite who was told that you were weird or that you had to pick one thing or that you had to hide certain things, or if you are an empath who had to put others people first, or you self-abandoned your feelings, or whatever you identify your conditioning as a young person, undoing that will always make you feel uncomfortable, but it is so necessary because it is the only thing that will get you to where you're supposed to go. It's honoring that, even though it feels uncomfy. And you're like, get me out of here. I'm crawling out of my skin. Yeah. It's supposed to feel like that. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people don't talk about that openly.
Yeah, I do always wonder, I don't know if there's any science behind it, like a snake shedding its skin. How does that feel for the snake? Ooh. Like, does it feel good? To me, I'm not sure that it would like feel that good, or to me, it feels like itchy.
Did you ever put like glue on yourself as a kid and then peel it off? That's what I always imagined.
I did it to my pencil box too.
Oh.
To the top of the pencil box, you put just like a huge layer of glue. Yeah. Well, you color it with marker first. On top of the plastic.
Okay.
It's where remember Space Makers?
Yes.
Yeah. It was that little like divot. And then you let the glue dry and then you peel it. Oh. And then the colors are on the it's niche. If you did that, let me know.
See, the Sensi in me, I just liked putting glue on myself and then peeling it off because I liked how it felt to peel it off.
A lot of my peers did that as well. Yeah. Yeah, but that is what it feels like. It's shedding, right? You are becoming a new version of yourself. So how can you do that feeling like cozy and comfortable? Someone shared the other day, bring back open and brutal honesty. Ooh. Something like that. Bring back brutal and open honesty. And I replied, make them uncomfortable. Yeah. And them can be anybody, yourself. Yeah. Like you can get to the point where you have to be brutally honest with yourself, and that makes you uncomfortable, because how can you be better if you're just in this constant state of comfort? You cannot grow out of old skin. No. If you just decide to stay there because it's cozy and warm.
That's all that I had for takeaways. This was a journey of an episode.
It truly was.
And I'm excited. I think that we hit on a lot of different things. Let us know if there's anything that really resonated with you. Comment with a book emoji if you think you're a multi-potentialite or a polymath.
You can also comment the eyeballs going like this if you have fear of being perceived.
Some vulnerability. You're going to have to tell us which one. And that's
Expose
going to feel
yourselves.
vulnerable and it's going to feel uncomfy.
Yeah.
But it's just a comment at the end of the day.
Yep. And both, if you're both.
True that.
I resonated with a lot of those takeaways. And all throughout the episode, I think I mentioned a few things. I think that's pretty much it.
So, reminder of our giveaway. We're giving away an emotional support water bottle, a gift card to Barnes & Noble, and a goodie from our favorite local crochet artist, Magnolia, the flower. In order to enter, you need to rate the podcast on either Spotify or Apple, whichever you listen to, 5 stars with the review, screenshot the review, and DM us and follow us on Instagram. Easy. 2 simple steps. We tried to make it as easy as possible. We're going to pick a winner on July 8th. So you have a little bit more time to join, but don't forget over the 4th of July holiday.
Also, the email is still open for any BIPOC artists of any medium, photography, painting, and the like. You know what I mean? If you are an artist that would like to be featured on our gallery wall, please send us an email, empathsanonpod@gmail.com. Or if you know of someone who's an artist and you would like to nominate them, please send us their
Nominate
information.
your tribe.
Yeah, nominate your people.
Yeah.
If you're like, it would so go with their vibe, or like, hey, this would like totally lift their vibe. It's something different. We're down.
Yeah, we got space here. We can add it. We can switch things around. That's the whole point.
It's the whole point.
We were intentional about the space that we set up because we wanted to do this from the jump. We were just, getting into our groove a little bit. So anything on this wall can be replaced with something else.
Yes. Imagine if we get to the point where we can have like several different pieces up that we can feature from different artists. That would be so fun.
Right now, we're keeping it at a month. So that we're going to do an artist of the month. So if you want to be our artist of the month next month, email us at empathsanonpod@gmail.com.
Yes, sir. Spirit, grant us the serenity to accept feeling uncomfortable.
The courage to be seen.
And the wisdom to not read a bitch when they try me.
And so it is.
So it is. Bye.